Hey, folks. Our today's one of today's show sponsors has made a huge impact on a very important a person in my household. Of course, I'm talking about my cat. That's why you got to try Smalls. It's time to make kibble a thing of the past. Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes with preservative-free ingredients that you're going to find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why veterinarians.org rates Smalls 10 out of 10 for ingredient quality. Smalls was started back in 2017 by a couple of guys who were home cooking cat food in small batches for their friends. A few short years later, they've served millions of meals to cats across the U.S. As some of our listeners know, one of my cats passed away recently. The other one was a little reluctant to eat. I think he was a little depressed, and Smalls has made a big difference because he loves the taste of it. I feel good about it because it's all healthy ingredients, but he loves it. Some of you might be wondering, why can't I just feed my cat kibble? Well, your cute kitty descended from a ferocious desert cat who hunted live prey for food, and your cat isn't any different. They need fresh protein-packed meals to be at their best. And cat food brands know this, but they choose to put their wallets first. They fill their food with mysterious meat byproducts, artificial flavoring, preservatives with names I don't even want to try and pronounce. If that sounds gross, imagine having to eat it every day. After making the switch to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements, and that's a big deal. The team at Smalls is so confident your cat's going to love their product, you can try it risk-free. That means they're going to refund you if your cat won't eat their food. Now's the time to make the switch to Smalls. Head to smalls.com/majority. Use the promo code majority at checkout, and you will save 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer you're going to find, but you have to use our code majority for 50% off your first order. One last time, promo code majority, 50% off your first order plus free shipping. We'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also, today's program brought to you by, with all due respect to other sponsors, my favorite sponsor, sunsetlakesabadeh.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. You will get 20% off. These guys are going to be sponsoring our live stream tomorrow night, live at the Bell House, when we cover the election results and hopefully when they come in. But they've got smokables, they've got keef, they've got flour, they've got a great bunch of different types of gummies. They have gummies with Delta-9, and they have some THC in those gummies. They have sleep gummies with melatonin, without melatonin, and with some Saban. They also have Sabadeh fudge and coffee. Check them out. They have all of their products are third-party tested. They don't use pesticides. They use integrated pest management. And they're movement partners. They've donated thousands of dollars to things like strike funds and refugee resettlement and carceral reform, Planned Parenthood. sunsetlakesabadeh.com. Use the coupon code LEFTISBEST. 20% off. Check it out. Check out those new gummies. They're fantastic. All right, we'll put the link in the YouTube and podcast description. And now, time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, November 4th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, national correspondent for Semafor, Dave Weigel, will be joining us as we are one day out from the end of the campaign. One day left, essentially, to go vote against Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Meanwhile, polls largely even nationally and across swing states. However,
whoa,
one major poll from Iowa and data from Kansas signal a potential for a major Harris win. Data also shows that Trump's Madison Square Garden Bund rally still resonates, particularly in Pennsylvania. This, as the Supreme Court rejects a bid by Republicans to block Pennsylvania provisional ballots from being counted. Meanwhile, Harris's refusal to break from Biden on Gaza continues to be the biggest drag on her campaign. And RFK Jr. vows day one that as Donald Trump's chief conspiracy czar, he will end fluoridation. Not a joke. Israel officially cancels UNRWA agreement as Israel kills 33 in a Gaza attack. Palestinians now facing forced starvation in the north. And the New York Tech Guild strikes, imperiling the needle.
Oh no.
All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. It is
Fun Day Monday?
Fun Day.
The funnest Monday.
Yes.
Anxiety Monday.
Yes.
We are one day out from the election, and we have some interesting developments over the course of the weekend. Polling is tough. Emma is itching to talk about this, but and we will get into the sort of the state of the race in a moment. High-strung day. Monday, high-strung day. Yes.
That's good.
Matt chimes in. And, we may not know. I guess the likelihood is we will not know the final result of the election tomorrow. I mean, we certainly won't know the final national vote. That will take weeks as we wait for California to bring in more and more votes, presumably for Kamala Harris. It's unlikely we will know the electoral count unless, however, the polls have been significantly off. And we will talk in a moment as to the potential for that at the very least. And perhaps, one thing that's important to note, to mention, when we say polling today, we are more and more talking about modeling, because there was a time, and frankly, prior to 2016, where different pollsters had variances in their models, et cetera, et cetera. There were nuances there. But the electorate was fairly predictable in terms of your past behavior, what your cohort was, et cetera, et cetera. In 2016, things changed. And I think for many reasons, both in terms of, in the wake of Barack Obama, there were certain, bigotries that were enhanced in many ways, and certainly by Donald Trump. But also we were in the wake of things like Occupy and a burgeoning left in this country. And since that time, we've had things like the repeal of a 50-year-old individual right in the repeal of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. We have seen a conservatively dominated Supreme Court that has just made it much harder to predict who is going to turn out and have people change. And so much of this is about modeling as much as it is about collecting data. And we'll talk a little bit to Dave Weigel about that. But let's just check in. There were two clips that I think on this day before the election that I think are sort of interesting to juxtapose. Here is Donald Trump. He's in Greensboro, North Carolina. He's been to some odd places visiting the last 2 or 3 days. Well, I should say he's been to some states that you wouldn't expect, and he's done some things that you wouldn't expect, like fillet a microphone. We'll maybe play that clip later. But here is President Donald Trump, or Vice President, or former, I should say.
Former president.
Yeah. At in Greensboro, North Carolina.
If I don't win this thing after all this talk, I'm in trouble. Will you please go?
Pause it for 1 second. Why is it so red in the background?
I was going to say,
what is going on here? It looks like he's under a heat lamp.
Yeah, it looks like they're under like restaurant heat lamp.
Or an infrared sauna? I mean, I don't know. It's odd. And also,
keeping my chicken nuggets warm.
He's trying to make North Carolina red by osmosis, or like this. Just to add to your point, Sam, this was the only of these 7 swing states, I believe, that he won in 2020. So
he is behind him. It's almost like they put the audience in a red filter. You know, that the lights there are red filter to sort of de-emphasize what's going on with his face. But if the whole light was red, we would see it in his white shirt. But nevertheless, go ahead.
They should have put them in the Carrie makeup. But go ahead.
Again, because I actually think he'll do just as good. So, and you got to look. If I don't win this thing after all this talk, I'm in trouble. Will you please go and vote? I mean, I came here. Whatever the hell time it is, who the hell knows? I'm giving you the full bore. You wouldn't let me leave in half an hour. I could have run up here, done it, start screaming, "Make America Great Again" for 5 or 6 times, and then leave to the cheers of the crowd. I would have been home sleeping right now. I hope to hell that you're going to get your asses out and vote. Did you all vote?
I could have been home and sleeping.
Well,
this
it's
is
more
a
like
pain in my ass.
Sleeping.
Sleepy done.
This is a guy who, it'll be interesting to see if he's still with us 6 months from now. But
I mean, we have to start to wonder: is this elder abuse to have him out there all the time? I mean,
JD Vance is elder abusing.
But this is, Donald Trump aside. One of the reasons to be really clear, I mean, he's obviously a horrible person. There's a tremendous amount of racist appeal, but lost in this sometimes is the implications of, just what it means to have an empowered Republican Party. If Donald Trump wins, it's also probably, more than likely they will take the Senate. Even if he loses, odds are that the Republicans may take the Senate, but also the question of the House. And here's a moment where Mike Johnson is campaigning in New York State over the weekend. In New York's 22nd district?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is you have Brandon Williams. He's the Republican from New York 22nd. And he is asked a question by a Syracuse journalism student. Mike Johnson
made waves. Like, credit to this student, because this was an enormous story on Friday.
Great question.
It was an amazing story. It was a great question. And, it feels a little bit dry in the context of everything that we talk about with this election. But it is it's hugely important, both because it talks directly about the CHIPS Act, which has been very successful, frankly. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars the government has earmarked for manufacturing over the next 10 years. We have seen more manufacturing starts. It is also setting a precedent of the value of industrial policy set by the U.S. government, which we rarely see in such a full-throated manner. But it also exemplifies the fact that this is not about voting for personalities, or in many respects, it's not even about voting for individuals. You're voting to empower certain constituencies and certain parties. And here is Mike Johnson trying to answer that question.
Yes, hey, how are y'all?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. So, 2 quick questions, if I may. The former president has said that he doesn't support the CHIPS and Science Act. You voted against it. If you have a Republican majority in Congress and Trump in the White House, will you guys try to repeal that law?
I expect that we probably will, but we haven't developed that part of the agenda yet. We got to get over the election first, and that's why we're so happy to be in New York's 22nd. Brandon Williams is one of the most important races in the country, and that's why Democrats are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to unseat him. But I believe that people are going to see through all the rhetoric and look at the record. And this is somebody who performs. He develops for this district, and he represents it very well. We got to have him back. His background and his experience are exactly what the country needs right now. He's in touch with the needs of his constituents, but he also was a former nuclear submarine officer. That's the kind of acumen you need right now in a dangerous time, and we're really excited that he's going to get it reelected.
Pause it for 1 second. So let me just summarize what he said there. We probably will repeal the CHIPS Act. Incidentally, his district, I think, is getting that new New York chip research.
Well, not Mike Johnson, the guy as you mentioned,
right? Brandon
in
Williams.
the background having a quiet panic attack because this was the day that it was announced that New York would be the hub for this major chip manufacturing facility. It was the day of.
And you have like one of the what is it? Is it Rensselaer? That is one of the top technical engineering colleges or universities in the country is up there. And so just to be clear, Mike Johnson saying, I expect that we will repeal the CHIPS Act. B, this guy listens to his constituents, but even better, he's a former nuclear sub guy. So that's pretty good. So this guy really knows what he's talking about. All right, go back just a little bit and watch what happens when, this guy's sitting there chomping at the bit because Mike Johnson has just basically given away the game.
Needs of his constituents, but he also was a former nuclear submarine officer. That's the kind of acumen you need right now in a dangerous time, and we're really excited that he's going to get it reelected.
And then for the congressman, would you vote to repeal or keep the CHIPS Act if that vote came?
No, obviously the CHIPS Act is hugely impactful here, and my job is to keep lobbying on my side. That's why I've crossed the aisle and supported many things that against leadership. But that's our partnership. That's how we're going to get through this. Being reelected, I will remind him night and day how important the CHIPS Act is, and that we break ground on Micron. It's coming.
When you have an issue that is where consensus is necessary to be built, and different states have different perspectives on these things, you have to have somebody who is a strong advocate for that legislation. People listen to Brandon Williams.
Advocate against me.
Advocate against me. Oh my God, this guy. I mean, here's the bottom line. You might like Brandon Williams, right? I should say he's running for against John Mannion, who is the Democrat. Brandon Williams, he could love the CHIP Act. He could hug the CHIP Act. He could fillet the CHIP Act, just like Donald Trump. But the bottom line is, if Mike Johnson is Speaker of the House and Donald Trump is the president, and John Thune or Rick Scott is the leader of the Senate, that CHIPS Act is gone.
Yes.
It is absolutely gone. It doesn't matter if Brandon Williams, goes into Mike and lobbies him and lobbies and talks to him. And that's the way that we do things. And that's what's, negotiations all about, and kumbaya. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's basically Trump. It's because Mike Johnson's talking to Trump. And like everything, like when Trump was last in power, trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, like when Trump scrapped the Iran nuclear deal, it doesn't matter. They want to get Trump's entire MO is to get rid of whatever his predecessor did because it's all about his ego. Even though Republicans, and this is something we've experienced or seen my entire life, and I'm sure, Sam, you covering politics like this, Republicans love to benefit from Democratic past policies. And then, like, exactly that New York State Republican, there's going to be jobs brought to his district and like massive investment because of this. So he's nervous. But the whole Republican Party as a whole is going to be in opposition to it. But like this Republican wants to ride on the coattails. So the point is exactly what you're saying. It doesn't really matter if he supports it. The party that he's a part of is always going to try to break apart what the Democrats do.
You could support it from a manufacturing standpoint and an anti-China standpoint. That's what shocks me about why Mike would even go there, but okay.
But he had to retract. He retracted about 2 hours later. And so
how does a guy retract that? I mean, not only does he say it.
He said he misheard, Sam.
And then, when Williams comes out and says that, he then goes on to say, well, this is what part of it. You know, we have different.
It's a process.
This is a process. And, you know, from different states, you might have a different opinion. But this is what's so great about our partnership is that I'm going to, in 10 minutes, pretend this never happened.
This is what Mike Johnson said literally 2 hours later. His quote. As I have further explained and clarified, I fully support Micron coming to Central New York, and the CHIPS Act is not on the agenda for repeal. To the contrary, there can be legislation to further streamline and improve the primary purpose of the bill to eliminate its costly regulations and Green New Deal requirements. So,
nothing like getting rid of regulations when you're talking about industrial policy.
Exactly.
All right. But I mean, this is an important thing to remember. Folks, is that this is not about personalities. Now, I think, Lydia Rose on the IM is saying I'm from Syracuse and Williams has been so hated. He's sponsored multiple Moms for Liberty's He's moved to Syracuse after getting elected. And now he's talking about killing jobs that have been anticipated for at least 3 years. But the bottom line is, even if he was sort of beloved, it doesn't matter. He is a vote for Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House. And he is only going to vote against the repeal of the CHIPS Act if it doesn't sink the repeal of the CHIPS Act, because they will not release him. That's the way it works. They'll let him vote against it if they know they're going to win already. And that's about it. This is something, remember, over $327 billion worth of investment this has spurred over the next 10 years. On top of what government subsidies have provided to rebuild our manufacturing base, particularly in the context of tech.
And the other two states where chip manufacturing is the biggest investments, Arizona, Mark Kelly was all over TV crapping on this over the weekend, and Ohio, another important Senate race.
Yep.
Bernie Moreno versus Sherrod Brown. Get out and vote. Disempower these losers. I want them to lose handily tomorrow. Let's do it.
We will talk later as to whether that may be the case. In a moment, we'll be talking with Dave Weigel, politics writer at Semafor, and author of the Americana newsletter. In the meantime, want to thank Factor for continuing to support the Majority Report and, frankly, helping me provide meals to myself and my son without having to really cook at all, really. This fall, you got a lot going on outside of the kitchen. If you're anything like me, keep your plans and turn to Factor. They deliver fresh, nutritious, chef-prepared meals ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Head to factormeals.com/majority50. Use the code majority50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month. Factor lets you do you. You can choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced, because Factor's meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved. You're going to love not only how Factor meals taste, but how they support your nutritional goals. And check this out. Factor is cheaper than taking takeout and dining out by far. It's not even remotely close. You can put the money you save towards holiday shopping or reach your financial goals. And it really does feel like you're making a home-cooked meal. And it's really basically why I've discovered the value of a microwave. I know that sounds weird, but I just never did. You get guilt-free comfort foods like home-style chicken and gravy, loaded mashed potato pork chops, feel-good vegan options like sweet potato and chickpea curry. That actually sounds, I've never tried that one, but that sounds really good. Globally inspired flavors like Peruvian shrimp and red pepper cauli grits. I have had that. There's no sacrificing for quality, for convenience with Factor. You got weekly menus. They offer ways to treat yourself to a restaurant-like meal experience with gourmet plus dishes that feature premium proteins and seasonal sides like broccolini, leeks, and asparagus. How does truffle butter filet mignon or garlic herb roasted barramundi sound? For me, I've had, there's like a Parmesan shrimp with zucchini, but it's like, they string it. So it's like almost like a zucchini pasta, but it's just zucchini. A mushroom chicken thighs is delicious. I think we had like a roasted garlic chicken. We get a lot of chicken. Use your time more efficiently. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning off your daily list of things to do. Head to factormeals.com/majority50. Use the code majority50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code majority50 at factormeals.com/majority50. That's the number 50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And also, we're getting into gift giving season. Cozy Earth is a great gift to give. It's been a great gift to me. Found my new favorite sweatshirt or hoodie, sheets, bath towels. I want to thank Cozy Earth for supporting this episode. You can give the gift of luxury this holiday season with 40% off using the code Majority Report at cozyearth.com/Majority Report. Would you have like a duvet? Is that what you have?
Yeah, I have a duvet, and it's excellent for both the winter and the summer.
Okay. For me, I got my new favorite hoodie, but also I love the sheets. You need good sheets, folks, to sleep well. A lot of research has showed temperature control is all what it's about. And Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set is the ultimate gift this holiday season. It takes everyday luxury into something everybody's going to use and absolutely adore. It is the gift of unparalleled comfort. They also have women's stretch knit long sleeve bamboo pajama set and men's pajamas. Don't forget, holidays are best spent lounging at home, the most comfortable pajamas imaginable. Cozy Earth pajamas are designed for those cherished moments of relaxation, ensuring you feel cozy and stylish all season long. Cozy Earth's goal is to help you create a sanctuary within your home. They understand the significance of finding comfort and tranquility amid your hectic lives. Your 5 to 9 should consist of relaxation, rejuvenation, unwinding, and embracing a sense of calm. In Cozy Earth, you can transform your space into an elevated haven where serenity and renewal intertwine effortlessly. All right. Well, I can tell you, this stuff is incredibly soft, and it's also sustainable. It is made from viscose. Bamboo, basically, which is, like a weed. Cozy Earth prides itself on the responsible production of its products. They also, Cozy Earth bedding has a 10-year warranty. That's how much Cozy Earth believes in them. And believe me, you can wear out your sheets, and having a 10-year warranty, huge. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Visit cozyearth.com/Majority Report. Use our exclusive 40% off code, the word Majority Report, to give the gift of luxury this holiday season. That's cozyearth.com/Majority Report. If you get a post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about Cozy Earth from the Majority Report podcast or YouTube or whatever. All right, we'll put the links in the YouTube and podcast descriptions, as well as at majority.fm. Quick break. Dave Weigel, politics writer at Semafor, author of the Americana newsletter. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, Dave Weigel, politics writer for Semafor, author of the Americana newsletter. Dave, one more day until the end of this campaign. Give us a sense of basically, well, I guess maybe we should start with the Iowa poll, because this is like sort of a big deal. Give us your just give us a broad strokes on what why people are talking about a poll in Iowa.
Well, they're talking about it, Seltzer's poll because she is very rarely wrong, and because her final poll before the general election, the last couple cycles, has shown something that no one else wanted to admit or didn't quite predict. And so in 2020, her final poll comes out. It shows that there had been movement toward Trump in the Midwest. This is when a lot of other pollsters are coming out and saying Biden is up by 5 or 6 in Wisconsin. So the smart take on that becomes, all right, well, this is clearly wrong, right? No, she was right. And so the polling before that in 2016, Trump and Clinton, Democrats are feeling bad about Iowa, but not like they've lost it. And then she comes out and says, nope, 7 points. Trump's ahead in Iowa. And then he wins Iowa by 9 or 10 points. And so it's possible this is an outlier, but this is the sort of poll that has a good record in the state. It has not made a bunch of mathematical calculations for who it might be missing. And what she found in particular that a lot of Iowa Democrats and Republicans are talking about over the weekend was that women just are broken for Harris in Iowa. This is one of the states where Republicans passed an abortion ban after Dobbs thing. Okay, there is such a movement toward Harris with women, with older women, with women who voted Republican even 2 years ago, that we think that is enough to put the state in play when no campaign has been campaigning there. And if that's true, there's part of southwest Wisconsin that looks a lot like Iowa. And if that broke for Harris, she'd win. There are, I would say, when you get to Pennsylvania, it's a bit of a stretch. But if those sorts of voters in the greater Des Moines area, or those sorts of voters outside Cedar Rapids, there are voters like them in other parts of the industrial Midwest, and that suggests, okay, majority white, like 90% plus white states, or sorry, I should say 80% plus white states, with this pattern. If they go that way, then Harris will win. That was the overinterpretation a lot of people did of Seltzer. I'm not even saying they're wrong. I'm saying if you take her poll and stretch it across the country, it would show such a big gender gap that she wins the Midwest and she wins the presidency.
Can I just expand on that point here, because I was texting Sam over the weekend. I spent my entire weekend on the Seltzer poll. Okay, so like 28-point lead with independent women. 28-point lead with independent women, and I'm hearing on the national level that this is the closest race in in history. I'm so sick of this crap at this point. Like, that is, for me, this is an indication that there are a lot of older women too. She's winning. I wrote this. 65 and older senior women, 63% in Iowa to 28% in this poll. Seltzer also got Obama right in 2008, by the way, in that caucus where everyone thought Hillary was going to win because the conventional wisdom was that Iowa's so white that they're not going to pick a black candidate in that caucus. She was correct about that as well. My view here is that the female vote, particularly older women, are being wildly underestimated in this election. Older women, older white women who look at Roe, and maybe they remember when Roe was handed down. They remember potentially before abortion rights were federal law and codified. And they're worried about their daughters and their granddaughters. A 63% to 28% in a white state like Iowa that leans Republican for Harris, I mean, that's earth-shattering. That's a massive, massive number. And Seltzer isn't hurting like these other pollsters are. She's going by her methodology. And that's why people are freaking out about this, because it's validating a lot of what people have been saying about this overweighting of the shy Trump voter with some of these national polls.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part of what Seltzer found for Democrats. I keep saying Seltzer just out of habit. Seltzer is that if that is accurate, then a lot of women who are not being reached out to by Harris, like Hillary Clinton, there is not a "I'm with her" campaign. Harris is not emphasizing that she be the first female president, but the chance to elect her, plus the anger at Dobbs, and also the improving just all of this is taking place as people are getting slightly less angry about the economy. Not people who post about it, but if you look at the data, our economic confidence has been going up the last couple months. Gas prices are down. I think they're under $3 at unleaded in Iowa right now. That there are more women who are saying, okay, things have turned the corner. I have a couple of issues that are more important to me than this or that thing Trump is mentioning at the last minute. So I'm gonna go for Harris, and that might be happening secretly. And look, if that's right, that justifies a lot of what was happening in the last few weeks. There are people criticizing Harris for campaigning with Liz Cheney. There were lots of reasons they were criticizing her, but the calculation there, I was at one of these stops in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The calculation there is, look, there are a lot of women who are never going to vote Democratic on other things. They might vote Republican down ballot in some of these races, but we need to tell them the country's going to be fine. You'll be very proud if you elect Kamala Harris.
Did you, and we should also say there's sort of like similar results, not quite as dramatic, coming out of Kansas as well.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, I'm going to take a wild guess, Dave, that you have not visited Iowa or Kansas in months and months and months and months, if not years. Like, everybody just assumed, like, why would you? So did you, and just, I think there is a sort of a sui generis aspect of Iowa in the sense that there is this really like onerous, horrific 6-week abortion ban, which really is tantamount to an abortion ban. I mean, yes. And that doesn't necessarily exist in other places. I mean, we've seen like what, and I think we probably talked about this. Why did New York underperform in 2022? Why did California underperform in 2022? Because there was no abortion ban. There was no question of an abortion ban. So did you like this question of older independent women? And also like even in Iowa, though, there's like the men too, like older cohort doesn't seem to be as Trump as you would have as I would expect, assuming these numbers are, fairly accurate, 3.5%, margin of error, but, and there's not that much, modeling going on. I mean, obviously when you just actually when you break it down into those crosstabs, did you come across this in places like, I know you've been like Waukesha County in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and maybe the Sun Belt states? I mean, did you come across this dynamic? Did it surprise you as you were going out on the road?
Yeah, I encountered it a little bit in conservative suburbs where I'd meet people who did not vote. But the difference was people who were out and took themselves out for the evening to a political event, they mostly had bailed on Trump in 2020, but they'd been Republican before that. I found some of that. I had a lot of reporters had the same experience where you'd be looking for somebody with this voter profile, and it was just tough to identify. Based on polling, there's a number of, for example, in Arizona, people who are going to vote Democratic for Senate, and they're not sure on president. And it was tough to find those people. And the basic reason
where would you find them? Right? Like,
you
knocking
need to just
at
go
the
out and interview
doors?
people at random, because people who come out for political events are self-chosen. But the data has shown us that exists, that there are people who are unhappy with a couple things, but separating themselves from the rest of, because what are Trump's best messages? They're immigration and their economy. A few other things he's had to kind of fight to a draw, or he's losing badly. And so places where, in Arizona, for example, Democrats are all running on constructing the border, finishing the border wall where it needs to be finished, and a tougher immigration message than Harris, kind of doing better. So we did see this electorate, all of us covering this electorate was kind of more amenable to Democrats in the last month, but still on the bubble for Harris. And she's still just, because we all remember 2020, she's still just doing worse than Biden in polling practically everywhere. So we need to figure out what is going to change. And yeah, you mentioned the abortion in these states. That's another thing I've been wondering about, is there are states where Democrats are more worried about people caring about this. There's Arizona, where there's a ballot initiative to put abortion rights in the Constitution. And some Republicans say that's helping them because people are turning out for abortion and they're voting Republican down ballot. But all those states, it's still very active. Every 4 years, you might have another election where the president can define what abortion is forever. And Republicans really have been in denial about whether that's going to be powerful. to
I
people.
mean, abortion's also on the ballot in Montana. I know it's a little bit of a different dynamic because in Iowa, the abortion ban that was extremely restrictive went into effect. So it's a 6-week ban that went into effect, I guess, earlier this year. But Montana having an abortion ballot initiative on the ballot, and seemingly last week MSU Billings had a poll with Tester tied. And I've been saying this guy's a little bit Teflon-y, don't count him out. And here we are. Like, there's a chance in Montana.
Yeah, not completely over. Look, if Trump loses the election, there might be this question about why in the final weekend the campaign spread out to Virginia and New Hampshire when it was clearly not that safe in some of its like targeted states and red states.
That was what I was going to ask you. Like, what is the I have that on my list, but before we get there, early voting. Like, as you look at, we got early voting records, I think, in Georgia and North Carolina, maybe other places as well. How much can be divined from that? Because it does feel like there has been a movement to register as independents. Like, we hear all of this stuff about early voting in terms of Democrats and Republicans, but independents are like becoming a, in some places, at least in terms of like new registering and early voting, as big of a cohort. And it feels like we don't know enough of who these people are, because it seems to me that independents in the past have been largely lean Republican from my perspective. In any conversations I've had, I'm talking maybe, in the first decade of my career, when someone said they're independent, I'm like, I listen to both sides. I listen to both Bill O'Reilly and Brett Baer. And that's sort of like the perspective, but it feels like there are now independents who are like, I don't want to be a Democrat. I would never vote for a Republican, but I don't want to identify as a Democrat. What's your sense of that?
That's real, especially in Nevada. So Nevada's a case in a state where if you have seen Democrats lock it in early voting through the cycle, because you say which parties are turning in their ballots, which parties people are registered with, that they're doing worse this year on the R to D comparison than they had in the years where they won. But what happened in 2021, Nevada started using automatic voter registration, which is a progressive reform that does not always help Democrats. And most of the people who are automatically being registered to vote choose independent. They don't choose one of the two parties. And so what Democrats think, the reason they're still pretty confident, I should say, based on yesterday, very confident their winning map would include Nevada. It's because a lot of these independents coming out are Democrats. They looked at them. They don't like Trump. Republicans are I wouldn't say relying on, but they're pushing a lot of the same numbers today. And they are, look at the early voting, look at the absentee voting now compared to 4 years ago. They're clearly doing better. Look at, in some places compared to 2022, they're clearly doing better. The question is, how many people did Democrats have turn out for mail voting early in 2020 that now are just going to vote in person? And they think a lot. That was the case in 2022. Republicans went through the same thing where they thought there was a Democratic collapse. But a lot of their calculation right now is saying that because they want to get this story out there that Democrats have no shot, that we already know Trump's going to win, that it's already over. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't look like it's over election night, it's because it's stolen. A lot of it they're basing it on is, well, look at how big the advantage was going into election day. And Democrats had the same data and say, oh, yeah, were we banking more votes in mail compared to Republicans? Yes, we were, one, prioritizing that more, and two, Republicans were telling their voters not to do it. So 4 years of Trump saying, please vote early, and every Republican candidate, I should say, in state party saying, please vote early, turn the mail. They think that is not as good of a bellwether as it used to be. But that is their theory. That is the Democrats' theory, that they know what's coming in, and it's not so MAGA that they're not winning the election. They think that they've modeled this out, that they're going to get over 270 electoral votes anyway.
Let's talk about the get out the vote. There have been, and again, like this year more than any other year in the past, although I think probably I'm informed by 2016. I question whether I'm just, how much aspirational, motivated reasoning I'm doing when I'm reading these things. But it feels like Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk have just run an incredible grift on the Trump campaign. I have experienced being involved in an institution where the top guy is a con man and everybody else down below sort of was like, this is easy pickings. Like there's a quality of like the Howard Schultz dynamic that feels like it's going on where both Trump and Musk are Howard Schultz, and consultants are coming in and going like, oh yeah, man, the way to do this, you got to get votes, you got to spend money. And this is the way that you'd spend this money. Certain percentage goes into my pocket, but that's the way it works. Like, what is your sense of both of the get out the vote operations, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side?
Well, I saw everything I could up close, not for days and days. I respect the reporters who their assignment in a couple of days was going out people, because you do have to spend a lot of time to see if it's working. But Republicans will admit that Democrats have a better organization inside their parties, that they are not relying on third-party groups. They're relying on the unified campaign. So in every state, this is the presidential campaign plus the state campaign and the candidates, so that they're all knocking on the same doors. They have the same lit. Republicans are relying a lot more on this constellation of groups, even more than last time, because you mentioned TP Action and Charlie Kirk, and I went out with TP Action in Arizona. It's not nothing. They're not paying people to just sit down and fill out forms and not turn them in, but they have a lot of people going to find Republicans who are already probably going to vote and convincing them to please turn out and vote. That matters, but they've not been doing much persuasion. Turning Point Action is less in the persuasion business than if we just get enough for all this coming from the theory that Trump really won in 2020. If we just get our voters to turn out early and it's not stealable, haha, we win. Whereas Democrats have been doing a lot more, okay, this neighborhood has some people who might be gettable for us. Let's contact that voter a couple times. Let's drop literature about the economy. Let's see if we can move this.
Well, the entire campaign strategy has been that. Get out Republicans. And they haven't moderated their message at all. For a candidate that's already viewed as too extreme by the public, Trump has been running anti-trans ads and did that Nazi MSG rally, basically, where a comment circulated that has had ripple effects across the Latino voting population in states where that they actually need. Like, them only targeting already existing voters matches perfectly with the campaign strategy as well. They're in a bubble. They really are. Yeah,
this is another thing to hold on to if it turns out Republicans lose the election, is that
believe me, I'm holding on to this.
Yeah, as the monoculture has fallen apart, if you are paying attention to just online conservatives, you often don't know what the heck is going on. If you're a normal, let's say I find somebody who's just been living their normal life and paying their mortgage and says, go pay attention to the right-wing messaging the final week, you're going to wonder what the hell it is, because there was the Madison Square Garden rally, which had a bunch of beyond the Tony Hinchcliffe thing. That was one of several insults he did of minority groups. And this comes from a place for Republicans of saying, well, nothing Trump says ever backfires. But usually campaigns when they're trying to expand their reach, like more Puerto Ricans this year than 2020, you don't say something insulting at the last minute. But then the focus from day to day has been, how do we win a news cycle and fight to a draw in the media narrative, even if it's not connected to anything? You saw that with the way that they fought over Joe Biden's garbage comment, which if you stipulate completely, Biden said Trump supporters are garbage, and then he meant to say it was just the people at the Hinchcliffe people at the rally. Sure. 2 days on that, and one thing you found from groups talking to Latino voters, that Latino voters heard about, just from group text, from local news coverage, Univision, etc. They heard about the insult of Puerto Rico as garbage. They didn't hear about this Biden thing, which is been a pattern. Biden just can't make news like he used to, even though he's president. But they thought Trump was making fun of them when he did this garbage truck drive in Green Bay, when he landed in Green Bay and wore the vest to the rally. They didn't think that was, he's defending Trump voters. Also, because that's in Trump media world. I keep saying world or constellation, one of those. Like, there's any insult, directed at any Trump person at all, is going to be the new thing. We're all going to put a costume on of garbage bags now. This is our new identity. And if you are kind of making your mind up, who cares? Like, why you don't care if he's insulting Trump voters? You're familiar with Donald Trump being insulting. So I don't want to overestimate what every voter is thinking on this, but they just had a really stupid closing week where they focused on stuff that Trump finds important or funny, or that Don Jr. thinks is funny, or influencers think are funny, and they just have been letting Harris close on the same. I have an economic plan, and we're mostly through it, but we're going to lower your prices. Just like day after day, she's been saying the same thing. So when you heard Democrats get more optimistic over the weekend, it was a combination of just the Seltzer poll existing. That was one thing. But it was also, we're closing, and our data shows that people who are waiting until now to make up their minds like her close over whatever the hell Trump is saying.
The garbage thing was amazing to me because to explain what Biden said, you have to reference what Trump said.
Yes.
And that the whole point is you want to stop talking about that. But Biden was talking in reference to, and the stuff about Puerto Rico, seemed to resonate. I think, because the demographics and the perception, but this guy's out there also saying, black people are, making a watermelon joke, and Jews are cheap and Palestinians throw rocks joke. Like, I mean, this was, did you run into this out there? Like, I mean, this, there was a quality of like, this isn't just Trump. This is the movement is completely built around this in a way that I think, we talk about this every day on this show for the most part, but in a way that like, I feel like the country didn't realize like, oh, wait a second, this is not just, crazy uncle, but he's going to do, but this is like a real movement.
Yeah, that is what they've been trying to do among themselves, is Republicans just arguing that they're the inevitable majority and most of the country agrees with them, and they have made the mainstream media irrelevant. And I don't even disagree with every part of it. I don't think yes, it's true. They can just get stuff through to voters directly that the mainstream media will cover negatively, and it doesn't matter that much, but it matters a little bit. And they also just the emphasis is all over the map. There is sort of a closing Trump message on the economy, which is that we're in the new Great Depression. It's already begun, and he can take us out of it by putting tariffs on people. But you really are kind of starved for anything but fun, like rhetoric and jokes and spin if you're for Trump. Even I watched a number of Elon Musk's town halls before I was finishing up my reporting on what he was doing. And it's just not that connected to everyday concerns. It's a lot of people who want to vote for Musk because they want a Mars mission in the next 10 years, which Elon says we would have by now if we listened to him 10 years ago. It's just really, I don't know what to compare it to, because I don't think comparing election to election to election is that helpful when the media environment has changed so much. But I can't remember Democrats closing on such randomness on just things that are not that important to people.
Yeah, it's strange. What? Let me ask you this about all this, like the jockeying about the polls and the arguments that the campaigns are making in the end. Like, I feel in a different era, there was a time where, talking about where the polls were at influenced behavior of voters in a way that doesn't today, or in the way that it's meant to. Like, I think it's probable that there were people who felt like Hillary Clinton is a 95% lock.
Yeah. And
so I'm going to lodge a protest vote, or I'm not going to go out and vote, or I even don't like the idea of it being so lopsided in some way. And I get the sense that, like, the stuff that we're hearing now, it's also largely immaterial. It's nice to know, like, it would be good that, it would be a relief if some of this is true from my perspective, let's say about Iowa or something like this, but that it's not necessarily influencing the behavior of the electorate in a way that it may have in the past.
No, that definitely happened a little bit in 2016. The sense that Hillary is inevitable, and the Trump campaign worked at from every angle at the time. One thing I remember them doing, which I always remember what gets left out of the storyline once the election is over, is that after the Comey letter, they were insisting that a bunch of people had been asking secretaries of state if they can change their vote, which there was no evidence of actually happening, but it sounded real. There were people who said that, oh, well, they're about to vote for her and now they feel like she might be in trouble, so who knows. And there were just all these different avenues for telling people you can vote for Trump or vote for a third-party candidate. It's not going to matter. It's not going to win. That's not the case anymore. Pollsters sometimes ask people who they think will win the election, and there was a shift towards Harris over the summer, and then it's pretty neutral now. The last Wisconsin polling we saw, for example, from Marquette, which is a really good record in the state, was 50-50. People didn't know who was going to win. So in those circumstances, there will not be people saying, I'm assuming a Harris win, I'm going to vote Republican for the down ballot. I'm assuming a Trump win. Just that's not really a factor in this election. And the sense that it is really close and it can go either way. I don't know how many more times people who analyze polls needed to say this, but that's definitely a change, because 2020, even at the end, Trump voters were convinced they were going to win, and most people told the pollsters they thought Trump would win. Even though Biden was up in the polls, there was this bias to thinking, well, Trump's going to win somehow, and Democrats can't turn out because of COVID. Their GOTV is all screwed up. This time, net total 50-50. Nobody in that position is confidently saying I'm going to vote for balanced government.
That's interesting. What the Senate? What did you come across, and did any of your travels take you to places like Montana or I don't know? Well, obviously you've been in Wisconsin, Nebraska seems to be in play. Like, where else is there potential? I mean, Texas, I guess. Is there any other potential losses for Democrats outside of, let's say, Tester, or I don't know, maybe in Wisconsin? I haven't heard as much in the past couple of weeks about that, but Tammy Baldwin, there was some concern maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. What's your sense of this?
There is a chance of a big Republican victory. That's if you just move all the polls 3 points toward Republicans, then they would have 55 Senate seats, and that would change a lot of things. It'd be very tough for Democrats to argue in 2026 that we can take the Senate back. If you look where it is, they would struggle to get the Senate majority back for quite a long time. Now, they were down 55 seats after 2004, and they had 60 seats in 2008. But remember, that majority was built out of winning both seats in North Dakota, et cetera. Just a very different map. Red state Democrats were a lot stronger. But what Republicans hope would happen is that everything is underrating them slightly in the Midwest, so that they would win. They'll win Ohio, which they were confident about 2 weeks ago, and now they're like 50-50 on it. That they'd win Pennsylvania and they'd win Wisconsin. Those states would get them to 54 votes. There is optimism that I mentioned Nevada and how they were trying to read the early voting there. Optimism that Nevada or Arizona has been moving in their direction, and there's enough voters who will just going to vote Republican down the ballot that they will beat Jackie Rosen or they'll beat Ruben Gallego. That's how they see the map. You don't from Republicans and from Democrats see the same something wild's going to happen and it's going to shift in our direction. We're going to win. Because I interviewed Dan Osborne fairly early in Nebraska, but I didn't get out there myself. With that race, they're not counting on that. They're not counting on Texas. They're not counting on Florida. Their narrow best case scenario is that Tester holds on and they don't lose the Senate while Harris wins the presidency, because everyone's written off West Virginia. They just know that Jim Justice was going to win there. Right. But I hear Republicans speculating more about what would happen if we win 55 seats than I hear Democrats saying, what if we expand the majority? They just don't think, not that they've done anything wrong. I mean, this has been, every cycle is the new super PAC cycle, but this one's insane. This one you've got in all these races. 10 years ago, Republicans would have just pulled up stakes and given up on Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And this time it was, well, what if we spend $100 million more from super PACs in these states? With that money, that has changed everything. The last time these Democrats were on the ballot, it wasn't just a decent midterm year. It was that they did not have this much money coming out and canceling all their small donors.
Interesting. So this is like the Republicans continue to play in fields where in the past they just couldn't afford to, and they would just cut their losses.
That's what happened in 12 and what happened in 18. I maybe over-indexed the Ohio stuff because that's where I spent the end of 2012, and you definitely saw with Brown, Peck kept spending money to beat him there, but he clearly never was behind. He always had separation from moving Obama. He was always on track to win, and that was seen as this insane dumping of resources by super PACs that were unaccountable, and it was like $18 million. Now we're up; it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars that were spent in Ohio, and Democrats matched it. They have their own super PACs, but their response has always been, "We hate this system. Luckily, we have enough billionaires who will fund these super PACs so we can match it." But the entire Republican strategy, their candidate in Ohio, who was personally very wealthy, barely raised anything. He just was counting on outside PACs to run his ads for him. Crypto through the Fair Shake PAC, the completely fake crypto voter movement that they represent, that's going to have spent at least $40 million against Sherrod Brown. And that's more than was spent against him in his last two elections, actually, in 12 or in 18. Because Republicans in 18, they said, well, he's up by a lot. We're going to win everything else down ballot, but can't quite knock him out. And this cycle, they say, oh, well, Miriam Adelson, I should say, the widow, gave us $100 million to just spend some of it there.
What about the House and tie in that notion of Trump campaigning in New Mexico and Virginia? Like what?
And
like,
does he really care that much? Like, or is it just that he can't? I mean, I know your theory, Sam, is like he needs the House if they're going to, like, if he wants to take the election or if there's going to be investigations against him, right? But I don't want to overstate your theory, but he's also extremely self-interested and has never seemed to care about Republicans' prospects down ballot, though.
Yes, he has campaigned with people, but I mean, where we went in Virginia, for example, is to a district that Republicans are going to win safely anyway. He's not been. It's been sort of under the radar. Even though Trump is doing better than his Senate candidates, the House candidates much more have tried to carve out their own identity because Republicans are trying to defend a lot of incumbents who won in 22 or won in 20 and are trying to hold on, and they've been more separated. Don Bacon, for example, has not been campaigning with J.D. Vance in Nebraska, and that's one pretty early in the night. If Democrats are not beating Don Bacon in Omaha, they're really not having a good election. But they're overall thinking they're also close. They were excited by the Iowa poll in particular because it suggests they might win 2 seats in Iowa where they thought they'd win none. They know they're going to lose 3 seats in North Carolina because Republicans redrew the map there to blow out these 3 Democratic seats. One of the guys is running for Attorney General. One's retiring. One's running for something next cycle. He doesn't know yet. So it is going to be, if the polling is accurate in the 2020s for either party, Democrats could get the advantage. We were just talking how there's not a lot of ticket splitting, or I need to strategically vote for this party to keep the other party from getting everything. And also, Democrats locally are running, I wouldn't say moderate races, but they are running on my opponent wants to keep abortion illegal. My opponent wants to cut taxes and fund Social Security cuts for the rich. They're all running on the basic 2012 Democratic, I wouldn't even say populist, just normal Democratic messaging. But yeah, it'll be, I don't think we'll know if it's close who won the House for probably a week, not because of anything crazy happening in Pennsylvania or those states, but because of California just taking forever to count, Arizona taking an extra week to count. So I would look, if somebody's saying who's going to control the House, there's a couple of seats early in the night, like in South Central, Southeast Pennsylvania, Scott Perry. If Scott Perry is able to hold on there against a very good Democrat, I think you'll have a lot of people saying, "Oh, it looks like Republicans are fine. They probably held the House." And if they're losing any of their far right incumbents who are in swing seats, then that suggests that Democrats are probably able to do that 4 or 5 or 6 places and win the majority.
Where else? I mean, in Pennsylvania, Scott Perry. Who else should we be keeping an eye on in terms of the House?
Yeah, so early in the night again, the Virginia 7th District, where Abigail Spanberger is leaving to run for governor, and Eugene Vindman is the Democrat, and he's the best fundraiser in the country in the House races. He got lucky because the New York Times uncovered his opponent, who's single and unmarried, had very weird campaign ads that were showing him with a random family that's not his.
That's the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. And so that's one. It's like, okay, because there were questions about Vindman's military service, and he's not a natural candidate. He's not terrible, but he's not like he got famous during the Ukraine impeachment. He's not like the kind of Democrat who usually wins in Virginia, where they're rise through the ranks and then run for something. If that one is not a Democratic win, because that would come in pretty early. That's got not the closest DC suburbs, but sort of the DC exurbs that have been changing a lot, like Stafford County. Biden was able to win that. Glenn Youngkin won it by 10 points, but it's all in that district. I'd say Virginia 7 pretty early on. Okay, how is this going for Democrats? New Hampshire's districts, both of them, we don't know exactly why the Trump campaign there. I believe that they probably had some data that says it's within 5 points to send somebody up, and they sent Vance up. But that will tell you there's not that much to win in New England. But I'll tell you if the Biden margins in New England are holding. Same thing with Maine's 2nd district. That is most of Maine. So 1st district is like Portland and the towns you could drive up to pretty quickly from Boston. The 2nd is most of rural Maine that has gone for Trump in every election, that has an incumbent Democrat who's run ahead of Trump in every election because he got elected in 2018. And that's one. If the polling has in that district has found this Democrat, Jared Golden, who, to the annoyance of some Democrats, has refused to say to vote for Harris, that he's winning even though Trump is winning the district. And if that's true, you're going to say, okay, things are holding from 2020. That's pretty good for Democrats. So that's one overall way to look at the election. If you look at some results and they look the same as they did in 2020, well, okay, that's going to be good. That's going to be good for Harris. And no Democrat thinks exactly that'll happen because they think there's going to be a shift in their direction in suburbs and shifts against them with working class voters, mostly compared to last time, mostly non-white voters. And so the first place is like Virginia 7th and Pennsylvania 8. If that's not happening, then they're going to say, all right, that's worrisome. Like it turns out like the Trump voter who is never polled actually matters, and they came out again and they've changed the electorate. It's worse than we thought.
Is there a Republican district which has the same function for Republicans? Like if we're losing this one, we're in big trouble.
I'd say Virginia 2nd early in the night. That's kind of the Tidewater region, and Democrats being Democrats just didn't try to gerrymander a bunch of safe seats in Virginia, even though they ran the whole state. They did nonpartisan redistricting. The result is that there's 2 competitive seats in Virginia compared to 0 for much of the country. So the 2nd district, Republicans just really feel they should win that. They actually have been losing ground there as during Youngkin's term. But that's one. That's like Virginia Beach, Norfolk, those sorts of regions. Early in the night, if Republicans are in a fight for that race, I'm focusing on the ones that are in 7 o'clock. I mean, that I'd also say Anna Paulina Luna in Florida. Now, this is somebody who her district. This is the 13th.
Which district is that?
The 13th district. So this is like Pinellas County. This was trending Democratic for years. Charlie Crist won it, and then DeSantis really re-gerrymandered Florida after 2021, and they made it more safely Republican. So it's now a Trump seat that covers Clearwater, St. Petersburg, those places. But this is one of those tests. Like Anna Paulina Luna is her entire identity is just being a Trump supporter. She's not been a very productive member of Congress. She's not said how she's going to vote on the abortion measure because it's probably passing her district by 15 points. And so that question, if she is in trouble, what does that say? Now, but if polling comes back and Anna Paulina Luna is winning by 10 points, that says they're not losing anywhere. And also, Florida Democrats are pretty lousy. They're not very good at winning stuff. But they have Whitney Fox, a very good Democratic candidate down there. And so if you're looking at the Paulina Luna district in South Central Florida, if she is not clearly winning, then they're going to be a little bit worried.
That's helpful. That's helpful, Dave.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if there's anything else, but why do you think that? I mean, Trump went to New Mexico and Virginia. Like, what do you have are people scratching their heads about that? He's gone to some places that have been, is it like an attempt? Yeah. Is it an attempt to make it seem like he's confident, or does he have some type of business meeting and he's trying to sort of like, do a twofer on the flight? I mean, what is going on with that?
Well, the Coachella and New York Madison Square Garden rallies were partly about donors. At Madison Square Garden, there was a donor box that cost a lot of money, which that'll be fun. If he does end up losing, it'll be fun to check in with people who paid a ton of money to be at the event that hurt Trump in the final stretch.
Right.
Those part of it is the storyline, because again, I'm doing this sort of bloodless what time will you know the winner analysis, because I think it still matters. But the premise of the Trump campaign is that he will win the election. If he doesn't win the election, it was stolen. And so anything he can do that says, I've got so much momentum that I'm changing the electorate. There's places that people never thought we could win, and now we're going to win them. He's been obsessed with saying he won California for years. And in 2016,
Right.
he said that he basically won it, except it was illegal aliens voting. So that's part of it, is just saying, let's say it's clear at 10 o'clock that the election is not going for Trump because it's very close in Pennsylvania and Michigan, but he's down. They would say, like, how could a candidate getting this much support or in Coachella, like, how could this be happening? The reason I don't think, beyond it not being true, is going to be that successful is because, in 2020, he was running against Joe Biden, who was not building crowds because of COVID and because he couldn't build crowds. In 2016, he was running against Hillary Clinton, who couldn't build crowds. She did the final week because she had big special guests, but he's been running against Harris, who is filling the same arenas that he campaigns in, often with a bigger crowd.
Yep.
And so I don't think it's been, as a narrative builder, I don't think it's been very successful at all. But that's why he's doing it.
Dave Weigel, politics writer at Semafor, author of the Americana newsletter. Where are you going to spend election day eve? Are you traveling around, or you just basically hang out in the office and watch like the rest of us?
Yeah, this year I'll actually be in the office. The campaign team is, I should say, like the campaign coverage team at Semafor are in a few different places. You got some that are at victory parties. I will be in the office doing calls, and I've got not that special. I mean, I kind of try to publish everything I do as soon as I figure it out. So if you read our coverage, I have my list of which targeted places to watch. But yeah, I'm gonna be in DC as stuff goes down. There's already, as in 2020, there is people like boarding up stuff around the White House. I don't know why I'm not that worried about it. I'm really not about the results of the election, but I think that the vibe in the city is very different than it was 4 years ago.
Interesting. Dave Weigel, always a pleasure. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All
right, folks. I am not going to do the fun half. I have some sort of sad news, and I'm going to try and let you know without falling to pieces a little bit about it. This audience has, been around, seen a lot of stuff in my life, but on Saturday, my mother passed away. It's obviously a very sad time. Fortunately, I was able to be there with my sisters. I was able to escape, what do you call it? Off-brand Neverland in time in West Virginia to make it up there. And my mother had been, dealing with Alzheimer's now for at least 5 or 6 years, sometimes probably a little bit more. So I'm going to be here tomorrow, and I'm going to be here tomorrow night following the election. Then the rest of the week is going to be a little bit spotty. Rabbi, in Jewish tradition, you tend to bury quick. But the rabbi was on board with having the funeral happen in a couple of days, because we got a lot of stuff to do, and it's obviously a very hectic time for me and my sisters. And so, I wanted to, come up with a good final appeal for people who are voting. I think, largely we've been making the case about voting against Trump, preventing Republicans, preventing Trump from ascending to power. And Harris hasn't always made the case easy for us, particularly in light of what's happening in Gaza. So I'm going to outsource that. And then, Emma will take over in the fun half. I will say that, we're going to wait until probably end of week, if not next week, to go over the Tim Pool debate. I was there for 3 hours. I've got some pretty funny stories, and Tim and I hit a bunch of topics that I think are going to still be relevant after the fact of this election. It wasn't we weren't doing a lot of why you should vote for Trump or Harris per se, but John Oliver had a great closing monologue. I guess it was last night, and we'll put a link to it, the full 14 minutes, but I want to play the last 3 minutes. He addressed and used both clips of people who, couldn't bring themselves to vote for Harris because of what's happening with Gaza, and those Palestinian Americans and Arab Americans and Muslim Americans who are going to vote for Harris. And just the way that he sums up the idea of voting, what its relevance is and is not, I think is pretty poignant. So let's play this clip here.
Isn't inspiring to hear, but politics isn't always inspiring. It's transactional. It rarely matches our greatest hopes and dreams. I'll be honest, I really didn't want the first vote I cast as an American citizen to be for Joe fucking Biden, but here we are. Here is how I look at it. The struggle for justice isn't just about what happens on election day. It's a fight waged constantly, day in, day out, in protests, on the street, meetings with legislators, and in the 1,000 small actions that cumulatively move the government forward an inch at a time. Abbas Alawiya, a co-founder of the Uncommitted Movement, has urged Democrat voters to pair their votes, their support for Vice President Harris, with a public commitment to pressure her to stop sending weapons should she become president. As for Ruha Roman, she voted for Harris in Georgia, another critical swing state, while doing a vote swap with someone in a blue state who cast a protest vote on her behalf. And she explained her Harris vote by saying, "My vote is a promise that I and those who stand with me will not stop demanding the end of mass slaughter and violence everywhere." And that is the point. Elections alone aren't sufficient for large-scale change, but they're absolutely necessary for it to ever happen. Because it's the day when you essentially get to choose who you'd prefer to be pushing for the next 4 years and where you'll be pushing them from. Look, I love this country. I'm an immigrant. I chose to be here. In the words of the late Lee Greenwood, I'm proud to be an American. And I'd argue there is nothing more American than having a healthy adversarial relationship with those in power, even if you voted for them. And while I know this hasn't been a very uplifting speech, if it helps at all, there's one final thing I'm going to be genuinely excited for on Tuesday, and that is, if Donald Trump loses this election, he's basically finished. I know he would put us through hell. He would put us through hell before he left the stage, but when the dust settled, he'd have lost 2 elections in a row, and we would be campaigning as an 82-year-old next time. I think he'd be done. And doesn't that sound great? And I know the problems that he's a symptom of would of course remain, but we wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. Wouldn't it be great to live in a world where he's no longer an active threat, just an annoyance, where this photo could just be funny, rather than having geopolitical implications, where he can yell about ice cream machines and complain about windmills, and we all have the option of just not giving a shit about any of it at all. I want so badly to live in that world, and I hope everyone does everything in their power in the next 48 hours to make that world possible. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching.
So I think that was pretty good. I mean, it's definitely worth watching the whole thing in terms of his perspective on voting and the implications of it. So check that out. In the meantime, I just want to reiterate, I appreciate the IMs. I can't read them now, or it's going to be a little bit difficult for me. But We'll be doing the show tomorrow. We'll be doing the show live from the Bell House tomorrow night. And in Brooklyn, I appreciate your condolences. Emma, ESPN.
On ESPN, we will be wrapping up the week. Yesterday there were some NFL games, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning going to be on Wednesday when we'll be a member at patreon.com/Left Reckoning, because we're going to have a members only sort of pregame at I think 5 Eastern. So check that out. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
All right, folks. Emma, we'll see you in the fun half. I'll see you tomorrow.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it to my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Can we bring back DJ Danner?
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs that look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back, folks. It is the fun half. Going to turn off the voicemail. The number is 646-257-3920. So many lovely messages for Sam. Condolences. Manson, we love you, Sam. Please take all the time you need away. It's an important time in U.S. politics, but nothing is more important than your mental health. Well, that's the thing is just like, you know, between the Tim Pool travel and the everything that's going on for Sam and the live show. I mean, I just really am feeling for him right now because there is a lot going on. It's very overwhelming, but hopefully after our live show, after the election, he can take some time. International Socialist, so sorry for your loss, Sam. Take time out. You only get and lose one mother. May your mother's memory be a blessing. Yes. Bobby Dog, love and solidarity. My deepest condolences for your loss, Sam. Ginger Punk, I'm very sorry for your loss, Sam. Please take whatever time you need. We appreciate the critical work you're doing. Please take care of yourself. Lots of lovely messages. Brooklyn Sue, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2017. It's the cruelest, most horrible way to lose someone that I have thus far encountered, and I'm so, so sorry, Sam. Much love to you and your family. Not sure if he'll hear this, but everybody sending all these nice messages. It's very much appreciated. I mean, there's so many. I can't even read them. I really appreciate it. Or I know Sam does. The dude. Hello, I flew the campaign in Pennsylvania in the Trump County. Had a number of women give secret thumbs up, seemingly hiding their support for Harris.
Yeah.
It's hearing wild. That a lot.
The posture that like sort of I saw Kennedy, I think it was, be like, this is so condescending for women.
Right.
You are insulated from the reality that a lot of women face, Kennedy. Like maybe being a MTV VJ and living in Manhattan your entire life has insulated you from the actual plight of women. You want to like say like what is it? There are people under roofs that they feel intimidated not to share the information about who they're going to vote for. That's a huge problem. Like the idea that it's some figment of a sort of condescending Democratic Party is ridiculous.
Yeah. For Mona Frankenstein, I live in New Hampshire and can assure you that Vance being here was a waste of time. Both House seats are safe blue. You can quote me on that, and Harris is going to win here by like 7 to 10 points. Adil, how can Emma Vigeland say that Kamala is supporting the genocide and in a different context say that Kamala is beautiful? Has she lost the ability to feel deeply? I think I said she was hot, and that's obvious.
Right, exactly. I mean, it'd
hot.
Be nice if there was like a sort of picture of Dorian Gray style effect that supporting the genocide has on your physical appearance.
I said she might be if she gets elected, she probably will be our hottest president and more than JFK and Obama. I don't know what that has to do with.
And it's important you say that because Michael is not here to say it, and he probably would have repeated it a number of times.
Yeah. Do you think Michael would have been into Kamala?
He was.
Oh, he was? She is. I mean, I watched her on SNL, and I was like, holy shit! Like she's like if they cast a politician in a movie. She looked incredible. I mean, that doesn't mean that she's not complicit in genocide because she is.
Obama was also a good-looking guy.
You know who's also super right? Exactly. Obama, JFK. You know who's also super hot and like very pro-Israel genocide is the Wonder Woman lady.
Oh, Gal Gadot. Yeah, exactly.
So those 2 points those two things can exist separately. MJS, the 50-50 polling is suspicious on its face. Yes, basically there's been analyses that show it's essentially statistically impossible. These national pollsters are hurting and hedging their bets, and they're terrified of the Republicans. Virginia, South Carolina breaking early turnout records by 100,000 so far. Went and voted on the first day. Great stuff. Joe Bidet, John from San Antonio. Is that dude calling in today? I think Tuesday's usually his call-in, but we will have some of his insights on our Election Eve show. Stay tuned for that. Lydia Rose, I'm from Syracuse, and Williams has always been so hated. He sponsored multiple Moms for Liberty meetings. He moved to Syracuse after getting elected, and now he's talking about killing jobs, and that have been anticipated for at least 3 years.
I mean, that's the thing. People, there's a little bit of confusion because I saw some people, Forbes has been doing these really insane headlines, like RFK crushes the Democrats, and people are like, well, why is a group like Forbes sort of pro-Republican? And it's like, the way I see this is there's a business community that is generally fairly like small C conservative, and it doesn't want giant waves to mess it up. That's like Wall Street, sort of hedge fund managers and stuff like that.
Right.
Those people, I think, and I would probably too, if I was in their position, support Democrats because you don't want Trump saying, talk about tariffs and all this dumb bullshit. The billionaires, the actual guys at the top, even above that level of the sort of Wall Street freaks who are in everyone's life, those guys are for Trump. This is pretty much a fight between those points. And I think, say, Sean Fain has made the assessment that, look, when it comes down to something like that, there's not really great answer, but you can't go with the billionaire Elon Musk shadow government.
No. And, we'll see. If Kamala gets elected and there is that general strike in 2028, that'll be a real test of if the Democrats are, well, we first have to get her elected. But if that were the case, real test about the Democrats' sincerity on this front.
That exactly. And that we got 4 years then to sort of build toward that moment and try to force that contradiction into maybe just the right way we want it to go, which is pro-labor.
Clarence Lyra, Emma, how dare you acknowledge the complexities of being an adult and understanding things? Couldn't be me. Cade Tea Leaf, any good cocktail ideas for election night theme-wise?
I'm going to be trying to take it easy on tomorrow night because I feel like okay, we're going to be there for 5 hours.
What are we talking about? I'm going to peer pressure the shit out of you.
Gosh. I have to do 2 shows the next day too.
Same. What Z-Biotics, baby.
I gotta use AI or something.
Right. We could just do that, just like Carrie Lake and all her internal polling. Zappa Lois San Bibi used to be hot. Sorry, there's no Emperor Palpatine ass lightning wrinkles that appear when you start murdering thousands. I don't know if I would say Bibi used to be hot. But
no,
but he does have a baritone voice. All right, let's take a call really quickly. Calling from a 631 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 631.
Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Hi, Emma. This is Greg from Massachusetts. Can you hear me?
Greg from Massachusetts. I can hear you great. What's on your mind?
First, I just wanted to give my condolences to Sam's family for Sam's mom's passing. Really sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to, as a former Republican, I wanted to bring something up. Liz Cheney, Schwarzenegger, and other conservatives have made a big plea to their party's base to vote for Harris for the sake of democracy. So my question is, for the Republican voters who take that advice, do you think that they will vote against Trump but then down ballot vote for the Republicans?
Yes.
And then I have a follow-up.
I think that's very likely. Yeah. I think that's kind of, I think that's part of what they're encouraging, actually. But I think that it's not enough. Like, if the polls are correct in North Carolina, and Josh Stein is up, or is his first name Josh Bradley? Yeah, Stein. Yeah, if Josh Stein is up by 15 points over Mark Robinson, like, I have a hard time believing that you can make up that percentage with split votes for Harris not to win North Carolina. But there could be the shy Mark Robinson voter out there that doesn't want to say, hey, I want to vote for the black Nazi. So it's really difficult to assess. But in a traditional election, that would be a huge warning sign for Trump. But yeah, like that's basically for the presidential race. It's still, even if you're not voting for Harris, which, I do think it's the right decision, but it's also like, I can't, say you have family member in Gaza, like, who am I to say that, right? I mean, people can be strategic and make those decisions. But if you're doing that, you should combat those kinds of voters by voting for Democrats down ballot. Because the last thing we want is, like, great progressive Democrats to be hurt down ballot because of this.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I just have one more question. Do you think that there's a chance that some right-leaning white men will secretly vote for Harris and not tell their MAGA friends out of fear of ridicule?
Well, okay, so that's so funny you say that, because I just saw this just now, and when we were in our break, Crystal Ball tweeted this out, that apparently in the new Marist poll, NPR, which has been one of the best national pollsters this cycle so far, that Harris is only losing men by 4 points. Crystal points out that's a big shift from their last poll. It would be funny if Trump's cartoonish bro identity politics turns out to be off-putting to men. And what Sam pointed out earlier is that senior men in Iowa, based on that poll that we talked about, Trump is, they're statistically tied. Men over 65, Kamala and Trump.
That is so crazy, especially with Iowa. I couldn't believe when I saw that.
He's up by like 2 points.
Rural Iowa.
Yeah, but I think. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. But that's within the margin of error.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Emma.
Oh, of course. I guess let's talk about that poll, and I will shut up about it after this. I swear. So people over the weekend were flipping out after the release of the Seltzer poll, which is a Des Moines Register poll that has a lot of credibility in election circles. It's Nate Silver's most highly rated pollster for good reason. In 2008, J.N. Seltzer, who runs this poll, predicted that Obama would win the Iowa caucus. And no other pollsters, most of them did not have that as likely, because the consensus was that he's a black man, Hillary or John Edwards will run away with it. It was mostly Hillary that the pollsters were anticipating would do well. She put herself out there, said, this is what I found. She ended up being right. In 2016, she also had Donald Trump overperforming, which people said, oh, this must be an outlier. Hillary's probably still going to win. Turns out she was right. There's a lot of reasons to respect her polling methodology. Unlike these national pollsters, she's not herding, meaning she's not weighting her results against other national polls to hedge her bets so that she doesn't come out looking like she has egg on her face or whatever. This is just their methodology. She puts it out there. And what the poll discovered is that Harris is up by 3 points in Iowa. White-ass Iowa. And that is, for a lot of people, an indication that her support is being underestimated. This is what I've been saying for months, has been my guess. And let's pull up what I sent you, Bradley, this graph. The key point here that I want people to remember, this is from the article. Yep. So you can see this is how it's polarized by age in this Iowa poll. 55 and older there, going to Harris, is extremely significant. The poll has Harris up with senior women by 63 to 28%. Go to the next slide. Okay, so let's read this part. Independent voters who had consistently supported Trump in the lead up to this election now break for Harris. That's driven by the strength of independent women who back Harris by a 28-point margin. 28-point margin for independent women, while independent men support Trump up by a smaller one. Similarly, senior voters who are 65 and older favor Harris, but senior women support her by more than 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%, while senior men favor her by just 2 percentage points, 47% to 45%. That is extremely important. And my theory about this is that huge gap for women, these are older white women, I think they will be the story of this election, who maybe don't want to say publicly that they're voting for Harris. That's what that Julia Roberts ad that the whole right wing was freaking out about was indicating. They may
moral ad.
Right. That said you might disobey your husband.
It encourages dishonesty.
Yeah, said Newt Gingrich, who
disloyalty.
Left his wife on her cancer bed for another woman. That the story of this election, the potential, and my prediction will be independent women, but particularly older independent white women who remember maybe potentially when Roe was handed down and don't want their daughters and granddaughters to lose their rights.
Yeah.
This is going to be, in my view, the story of this election. Now, maybe this historically accurate pollster who doesn't give a damn about aligning herself with the consensus is just wrong. It's just wrong. Donald Trump had something to say about this. This obviously made shockwaves over the weekend because of the broader implications for, like, if she's up like this in Iowa, what does that mean for neighboring states? What does that mean for Wisconsin, right? What does that mean for other states where there's a whiter electorate, where the consensus was like, oh, maybe she won't do as well because she's a black woman and a South Asian woman from California.
Can I just make one quick point on that?
Could be walls.
I think your abortion point is probably the most significant change of variable. I would also say it's maybe what I've been saying about Iowa. If you want to win Iowa, run a black person, because Barack Obama won it 2 times.
I know, but like, and people were being really funny, tweeting out white people in like kente cloth saying Iowa whenever a black person runs for president. But it's also like, maybe white people just aren't de facto as racist as pollsters assume, like in some of these states.
Yeah, I think some of that is more elitist projection onto the hinterland. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just from North Dakota.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Donald Trump reacted to the Seltzer truth bomb here. Very angry.
Well, there's a lot of spirit here, you know. And we even have the polls up, but I think it's much more than the polls. No, the polls, I'm telling you can make those suckers sing. You get the right pollster, you can do, and you really do inflict damage, you know, when you do like this person from Iowa. Today, the election essentially is really, we're talking Turkey, comes out with a poll different from every other poll, because it wasn't even in question. It's really the opposite way. I'm way up. If you look at 3-4 months ago, Dan, I was losing states that now are walks, you know, they're now walks. And I think you're going to have that here.
Things change.
It's called suppression. They suppress. And it actually should be illegal because it's, in many ways, it's worse than the written word, which these guys do quite well, actually. John Joyce is a...
So it's suppression, and in many ways, public polling, according to Donald Trump, should be illegal because it showed things that he didn't like. Well, let's go back to his quote from literally a year ago. We have that, Bradley? I sent that. We have his quote from a year ago here. In the Daily Montanan, December 2023. Seltzer is very good, he says.
Trump celebrated the big, beautiful poll results, saying that his lead was historic. He praised Jan Seltzer of Polling Firm Seltzer and Company, who conducts the Iowa poll, as, quote, very powerful, say a wizard, and a talented pollster. Of course, if my numbers were bad, I wouldn't be saying that, Trump said, as the audience laughed. I'd say, you're at terrible polls. But no, she's very good.
Whoops. Now she should apparently be locked up. The wizard of polling. Jan Seltzer. Whoopsie. It's, look, not trying to count our chickens here, right? Well, I mean, I am a little bit. But look, a lot of this is what I'd been saying, you know, for a while, and why I've been really skeptical about this whole narrative about this being the closest election in history or whatever. It tracks with the fact that there was another gold standard poll, Sam mentioned this earlier, that in neighboring Kansas that showed Trump only leading by 5, which should be setting off alarm bells for his campaign because he should have a bigger lead in Kansas. Like, people were saying if Seltzer came out and had Trump only up by 7, that would be concerning for him. Seltzer had Harris up by 3. The margin of error is around 3. RFK also on the ballot in Iowa. That's important. And about the abortion piece, this is really the most important part. Iowa has a 6-week abortion ban that was handed down and went into effect in the summer. So that it's in effect, right? It's material. All of those women, that 28-point advantage that Harris has right now, according to Seltzer, with independent women, are women who saw that happen in their state firsthand. And we haven't covered this a lot because I think it's still a real long shot, but Josh Hawley also in a re-election fight that some people think is tougher. Why? Missouri. also enacted, if I'm not mistaken, Bradley, right? A restrictive abortion ban. I'm 90% sure on this front, but fact-checking in real time. That, I think,
currently
is also
banned in Missouri, except when there was a medical emergency. But this Amendment 3 would amend the Missouri Constitution to unwind that ban.
And it has it on the ballot as well. Arizona and Nevada, also abortion measures on the ballot. Florida, even though you need a 60% threshold, also abortion measure and cannabis legalization on the ballot. This was the story of the 2022 midterms. It's the story of the race against the guy with potentially the first female president running against the guy that took away abortion restrictions. And now apparently this Michigan pollster comes out and goes, I realized that maybe we were undervaluing Detroit and black voters and also women in our methodology. No shit. So we'll see how things go tomorrow night, but this is clearly a canary in the coal mine, in my view.
Yep. By the way, just before I close the fun half of the show, I do want to plug Jamie Peck has a giant show going on in LA after our live show tomorrow night.
Yes.
A lot of folks, Jake Flores, Anders Lee from Pod Down America, Tony Boswell, Minion Death Cult. So check out that doors at 7 p.m. show at 8 p.m. at FKA Church. You can check them out at $5 to $10 for pay their fundraiser for Gaza Mutual Aid. And so check that out. Check that out for Jamie. You can check Jamie's socials for more info there in the Party Girls YouTube channel.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. We'll put that link below.
I'll put the link to the YouTube channel, and I'm just going to see if there's a link or like an Eventbrite or something, because I'll have that in the show notes and YouTube description for anybody in the LA area if they are able to attend as well. But I'll have the Party Girls YouTube channel in the show notes and YouTube channel. For Jamie, our friend.
Yes. Jamie, go check that out. And that's in LA, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Great. Kowalski, I don't think it's a closeted woman vote that will give Harris the edge. It's the closeted farmer vote. Everyone